Hi, I'm Julie. Welcome to Men. Today we have Dr. Martha Perez here with us, and she is a survivor of an attempted suicide. And I'm just so honored that you're here to talk about this with us. Thank you for joining.
Glad to be here.
Good. Well, we will be releasing this video during Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
Yay.
And so I really think it's important not just to only talk about suicide during that month, but I mean, as much as we can. And I'm sure you feel the same.
Yes.
And I would just, if you feel comfortable, I'd love to know more about, where you're from and a little bit how you were raised and when you started understanding whether it's mental health or feelings or whatever it was you started feeling in your body that became so very uncomfortable that life became a little more challenging.
Well, it's suicide's a theme in my family. One brother actually committed suicide, but I was the one who started it. So it started getting very uncomfortable from when I was like 13, 12, around that age. And my brothers got more and more and more and more escalating into violence in the house, domestic violence, which is mental health, all kinds of things going on there.
Sure.
And so to be able to just function, which is that was my goal. I was kind of like, very mellow. I wasn't really, I was just going to school, doing my things, being good, trying to please. That's who I am. And so I was doing good grades and everything, and I just couldn't function. I would go home and there would be this going on because my brother, the one who actually, I'm going to call him Mauricio, who actually committed suicide many, many years later. So he started doing a lot of drugs. He was bringing them home, and that was what that was all about. Anyway, so that was going on. So I was the quiet one, the one that was doing okay, the one that was nothing happening, invisible, kind of there, okay, she's okay. And so I started medicating myself. My father was a doctor, and I know you want to talk about feelings, but actually what I was trying to do is not to feel.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Because was it because the feelings were becoming so overwhelming that you were like, how can I not feel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
How can I function? Mm-hmm. I still wanted to just kind of be like, get up in the morning, go to school, do my thing, come back, that. And I couldn't. And it was starting to get, lots of just, what am I doing here? Mm-hmm. What am I doing here? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so he had asthma and he had these fabulous drugs that would have an upper and a downer, which was perfect for me because I needed the upper to keep going to school, to keep going, to, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the downer to just mellow out, to not feel, to just be in the house and tiptoe around all this and just go to my room and function. So that was working for a long time, maybe a year. I talked about this to my brother Rodolfo, who's the one that had the drugs, and and he said, "No wonder I never knew what was going on with my medicine." He figured out 40 years later. He figured out what was going on with his medicine. So I was taking them. So there was this huge fight one day in the house, and my brother and my dad beat each other to the ground, and they were just at it. It got so bad that my mother picked up my father, and they left the house. And I was like just looking for something because that day I just broke down. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So my father had all kinds of medicines everywhere. So I just started taking them because the feeling wasn't going away. During the normal days, as normal as they were, I could just handle it, with one or two. But this was like I finished the whole bottle and nothing was happening. And then this and nothing was happening. And so it became real tunnel vision. We talk a lot about suicide because we work with a group that's called Survivors of Suicide, and we support others who have lost other members to suicide. And so I tell this story a lot because I want them to know that there is nothing else in your mind. Anybody who thinks that somebody was committed suicide because they really were going to get revenge or, well, no. I mean, you have nothing else on your mind. You're just going for it. It's like, I'm done. This is something I cannot take anymore, and I'm done. I was 16.
And so you're not thinking in your mind about family. A lot of times I hear people say, how could they do that to others? But you're not thinking of that. Like, the pain is so bad, you have to just be done with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And fortunately for me, I didn't get to the right dose, because I was ready. I mean, I was ready. If that night I had gone to bed and not come back, I would have been totally fine with the situation. But it just happened to be that actually I was looking for alcohol and I couldn't reach it because they did have the alcohol way up, and I was already kind of stumbling. I was already getting really out of myself. And so my Mauricio came, got me, put me in bed, tried to make me throw up, tried to clean my stomach, gave me all kinds of food, and I woke up next day. And my mother was sleeping with me. I don't know what happened after I passed out. The interesting thing about this experience for me is that the quiet ones, the people that look like they're totally functional, doing great, and and then all of a sudden it's like, this is happening. It just takes one moment out of control, and you're there. And so it appears that everything is going as normal, as planned, as mom is making breakfast and I'm going to school and I'm coming back and I'm doing my swimming and all that, and
I know.
they never expected it. I mean, my mom, to the last day, she denies that it was that. She said, you were just sick. She never wanted to talk about it. My dad, I talked to him about it the day that we were mourning my brother, that he committed suicide. So I'm sitting there with my dad saying, I did it too, and here we are, 4 years later or whatever. He could not say a word. He was just, can't talk about it.
Do you think it's because they just could not imagine their daughter wanting to do that? Or do you think it's because, well, once again, especially in that generation, it's just unthinkable. There's no such thing as mental health. There is, that's not happening. And well, let's just forget about it.
It's like, it was even, my father was a doctor, very well educated. He built a lab, for vaccines. Now it's in Europe, it's all the way to Australia. I mean, it's not like he couldn't comprehend what was happening. I think it was just denial and incapacity to understand that, to that generation, we looked like we had everything. And I had everything, actually. I didn't have peace in the house, and I never talked about it. I never said anything. I never told them, you guys need to work this out, because hitting each other every day is not going to work.
Well, and you can have everything and you can have nothing, and that doesn't matter with mental health.
Yes. Absolutely.
That doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
What you have or what you don't have, or
Absolutely.
who you are. It can hit and affect anyone's family.
And this is, to me, is really important to say this message, that I think it's all about education, about being able to talk about it. Because when nobody even knows what it is, like my mother, I'll bring that later, but like, for example, my mother didn't know what was happening, because in their mind, they had given us everything. And we should be okay, or even better than them. That was a huge expectation they had. They're like, they don't even know what it is. I mean, my mom didn't even know there were psychiatrists, or psychologists or anything like that. And she heard about suicide from other friends that had somebody commit suicide, and she freaked out, but nobody would talk about clinics or anything like that, or support, or what's going on with, an adolescent. An adolescent is a situation that is very difficult, and there's a lot of processing that parents need to be very sophisticated in their communication skills and in their understanding that what the purpose of an adolescent is to separate, to individuate.
Yes.
To become an individual. And so my parents didn't know, they didn't know that we were pushing away, and that was the natural thing to do. That, my mother expected us all to stay in the same house. It's also cultural, we're Mexicans.
Can you tell us, after that night and you woke up the next morning and you're in bed with your mom, can you tell us how that manifested after that, or what the next steps were?
For me, it was a real clarity that I had to leave my family. And so then again, there was absolutely no support, complete denial from my parents that I did try to commit suicide. In fact, my brother was so scared that I tried Mauricio, who was the one who was beating my father down. He was scared of the whole thing, and so he actually went to school and told the counselor at school, and that counselor started chasing me around, and so I became really good friends with them. And actually in Mexico, in the school we actually had a psychologist and a psychiatrist be the counselor.
Oh, wow.
So he became my best friend in high school, and so that was something that happened just out of nowhere. We had coffee every morning. I became completely isolated from my peers at my high school, and but I was very self-sufficient. So I just became even more isolated and very clear-headed, very clear goal of getting out and leaving the situation that was going on in the house, and I couldn't. So it was 2 years that were really hard, and they were really hard because I think there was just no options for me in that sense.
Did you continue to take the medicine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. that was the one thing that that got me through. And it's possible that I could have gone to a psychiatrist without anybody being embarrassed about it, and just get
get the help you needed. Right.
To help me, to get through that. I guess I was depressed. I don't remember. I was so functional. It just really amazes me. I was teaching aquatic ballet. I was synchronized swimming. I was doing that every day. I was like...
When you were younger?
Mm-hmm. Oh, at that age, at that range. I stopped doing that when I came to the United States. But I was doing that. I was teaching that. I was... If you saw me, you would have thought that there was nothing, And that's the thing. We all try to play it like we fit, we belong, we are not doing anything wrong. And then one day you just slip. So, this interactions, these processes, these taboos, all this culture of not talking about this is so important to get it out. And I think it should be, our education should cover mental health as if it was like physical health, as if it was like, do your exercises, drink your orange juice. There's mental health benefits for doing so many things. And that's how I, came out of this, learning for myself how I could cope, because I had to learn by myself. Of course, I talked to counselors. I did co-counseling. I did all kinds of things. I tried with counselors here at the University of Texas. But there was something missing in that whole thing as well. Like, I feel like once I got myself in touch with other things like meditation and, things that give you back your sense of self, give you back your self-worth. Because being in front of a counselor is still like, what's your problem? Instead of, who are you? Why should you be loved? Why should I love you? Like let's do this. You're born to be loved. That's what we all should be doing.
Yeah. Right.
And that could be an education. Literally. So that's kind of long. I put 50 years into 20 minutes. But the way I found my really, like, when I never try to do it again ever, because I left that environment and I left all that. And if I had to leave a country behind, I did. I left the whole country behind. Mexico, you know, the culture, the whole thing about how women are supposed to be, all that, you know, it just
Left it behind.
left.